All right. So in this presentation, we're going to go over common objections, how to handle them, frameworks to use when you are encountering objections. So just high level, most objections are smoke screens. Your job is to get to the real one, if there is one, or be able to handle it correctly and keep the conversation moving forward. So we'll walk through different frameworks to handle them. So one is third-party stories. We have another presentation about third-party stories, but you want to let someone else's experience do the selling and like remove yourself. You're not just telling them you're trustworthy. You're not just telling them we're going to be able to close. You're sharing a story that demonstrates what we wanted to demonstrate. So here's why it works. When you tell a seller this is a good deal, it sounds like sales pressure. When someone else's experience tells that story, it becomes social proof, right? So third-party stories remove you from that equation. The seller hears themselves in someone else's situation and then draws their own conclusion. So how do you build the story? Basically, you're going to match the scenario, similar motivation, similar objection, same hesitation. You're going to basically talk about how they felt, use their own language, and then you're going to talk about what they decided to do. Don't over explain. And then you're going to talk about how they felt after. And this is kind of the payoff. So you tie it back into their motivation. So let's say someone's objecting about price. You might say, you know, I actually worked with someone in a similar situation. They felt that the offer was too low at first. What they actually found out was after we walked through the real costs of listing it, which, you know, commissions, repairs, carrying costs, was that our number actually put more in their pockets. What would it mean for you if we could show you the same thing or something along those lines? And we'll come up with, this is more in the third party story section, but just as an example. So with these objections, just high level, you're going to use them at various points, right? Not every situation calls for a third party story, right? If someone says need to think about it, I don't necessarily use a third party story there, but you can, right? And this is where you just get comfortable with navigating these objections, navigating these conversations, and being able to use the right framework or the right response in the situation. So you have early call resistance, right? This is before you even really get started. And there's this framework, which I don't believe we talk about, but it's deflect and redirect. Basically, it's kind of acknowledge, answer, and advance. You're going to answer their question, but then you're going to actually ask a question back because the person who's asking question is the person who's in control of the conversation. So in this instance, let's say you hop on a call with someone and they're like, who are you with? How'd you get my information? Why are you calling? You're just on the defensive. You're just responding to what they're dictating and the questions that they're asking. So what you want to do is they're like, who are you with? Be like, yeah, I'm actually with Cash for Chicago Houses. I was giving you a ring because of this, this, and this. Mentions here in the notes that you're looking to sell. Is that right? Now you turn it back on them. Now they have to answer. So you'll find people who want to just pop off questions to you one after another. And what you want to do is you want to answer it and then start asking them questions. So that's basically what deflect and redirect is. You're redirecting into what you want to talk about and the questions that you want to get covered. So all of these objections, I'm not going to go through every single one because there's a ton of these and there's more that aren't on this presentation, but you should be able to answer each one of these questions like that. There should be no hesitation on your end because the more confident you are and the less like, I need to think about it, I'm not sure of that answer, you're going to lose them and they're not going to feel confident in you. And you want them to feel one, comfortable, confident, and you want them to feel like you've gone through this a million times before and that you have things under control. All right. So yeah, so basically, as I was saying, you should be able to answer all these, work on it, drill it out over and over. Like, who are you with? How'd you get my information? How'd you get my address? You have all that information already. You should be able to respond to each one of those very easily. And it's just a matter of repping it out over and over and over until it becomes second nature. Next, we have price objections. Motivation is always going to price or always trump price, but these are things that are always going to come up. What's your offer? I get these all the time. I'm not taking a lowball offer. How do you respond to those? Right? There's another document that will walk through all the answers and all the responses. And again, you just have to drill it out. But like someone's like, hey, what's your offer? I get these calls all the time. I'm not taking a lowball offer. You're like, hey, I totally understand. My intention is just grab information from you, condition, timeline, get an understanding of circumstances, and then my goal is to try to get you, the number you're looking for. And if we can, awesome. And if we can't, you just tell me no and totally understand. And then you just keep it moving, right? We're not going to negotiate with them on the front of the call. If they say they want 400,000 and retails 400K, you say, sounds good. Let's see if we can get that number for you. So, right? Like, you can't give me what I want. Why do you say that? Right? You just have to dig and be able to respond to these and then keep the conversation moving. So this kind of goes into what I was saying earlier about reflect or deflect and redirect, right? You answer the question, you address it, and you keep it moving. Then you also have like, how did you come up with your offer? I'm going to list it with an agent. Being able to talk through that decision, more so I'm going to list it with an agent and explain and educate them, talk about the alternative, right? So listing it with an agent, so you're going to have to put money into it to fix it up. You're going to have to wait maybe 6 months to get it sold. You're going to have holding costs during that time. You're going to have selling costs. You're going to have closing costs. There's a number of things that I think a lot of people don't factor in, and being able to address that. Next, we have like stall and delay objections. So this comes up more so when we make the offer, right? I need to think about it. I want to think it over, right? So one thing you can do is you could go for no. So go for no is basically like, hey, you've been really polite, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. In my experience, when someone tells me like, hey, I need to think about it, it's really just a polite way of saying no. Is that what's going on here? Right? So that's one way to handle it. That's going for no. Another way to handle it is boxing objections. Well, one, if someone says, I need to think about it, what exactly do they need to think about, right? Like in the process call, we've talked about how long they're looking to sell or how long they've been thinking about selling, how long it's been on their mind, what's next for them, like their timeline, right? So when they need to think about it, something is off, right? Maybe they don't feel comfortable. Maybe they're waiting for another offer, right? These are all things that we want to understand. So someone says, I need to think about it. You want to be like, okay, totally understood, right? We don't want to be defensive or like, be like, what is it that you need to think about? You said you wanted to sell. That's not the tone that we're going with. It's more just understanding, right? I need to think about it. Be like, okay, totally understand. Just curious, like, what exactly do you need to think about? Well, I need to think about if, this is a good offer, this and that, whatever it may be. Be like, gotcha. Okay. And when you say like, think about if it's a good offer, like, how are you going to do that? And then you just dig and you try to understand where the hesitation is, right? And then you can use a go for no. And then there's also boxing objections. So I don't think I talk about boxing objections here, but boxing objections is you're going to ask 4 questions, right? You're going to be like, hey, I'm just curious. Is it me? Is it something I did? And they'll say no, typically. Then you ask like, okay, is it the company? They'll say no to that typically. Is it the process? They'll say no to that. Be like, gotcha. So is it just price? And then they're like, yeah, just the price. What this does is it allows us to basically, let's imagine different doors you could walk through, and each door is an issue that we need to address. What we're doing is we're closing each door until we get to the door that we actually need to walk through and solve for to be able to get the deal closed. So if they say, actually, yeah, it is your company, I don't know about it, I'm not sure, and we could point them in the right direction, be like, hey, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, we have 5-star reviews on Google, we have this, we have that. All right, now that that's closed, is that the only thing that's holding you back from moving forward? Be like, yes, and now I feel comfortable. Then these other things, send the offer to my email, just send it, I'll review it, being able to handle that. And again, we have another document that walks through answers to all these, but you, again, need to know how to respond to each one of these to be successful, because you'll encounter these at every point in the conversation, especially at the end. And if you can't handle these confidently, you're going to lose deals that you otherwise thought you might have had. So then you have people and influencer objections. These obviously should be uncovered in roadblocks and not discovered at the offer stage, but sometimes people hold out or they don't tell you. So, I want to talk to my spouse, talk to my kids, run it by family. Those are all kind of the same things. Talk to my attorney. So we need to be able to handle those. I want my attorney to review it. I want to talk to my finance person, whatever it may be. We need to be able to handle these well, where we can hopefully get them to sign, or we get a firm commitment on when they're going to be able to talk to them, when we're going to hear back, that sort of thing. because a lot of times it's just a smokescreen to get you off the phone because they're not comfortable. But we don't want to just give up and be like, oh, okay, I want to talk to my kids. Be like, okay, sounds good. Well, just let me know what they say. Wrong. What we want to do is we want to basically, let's say they say, I want to run it by my kids. Be like, gotcha. What exactly do you need to run by them? Oh, well, I just want to make sure this is good. Like, okay, have you talked to them about it in the past? Yes, no, whatever it may be. Like, okay, and what did they say about it when you mentioned you were looking to sell? Be like, oh, well, they were super excited about it. They can't wait for me to sell. Be like, gotcha. So I mean, what do you think they would say when you bring this to them? Be like, well, they would tell me to take it and sell, or they would tell me to, to get more money. Be like, gotcha. Is that how you feel? Usually it is, right? Because they're just projecting their feelings onto their kids. And they would say, oh, like take more money or get more money. And be like, okay, sounds good. Let me ask you this. Is this just the money thing? And then you could start to figure out money, right? Like if they just need 5 grand or 10 grand more, like we go back to the underwriter and we go ahead and get that approved. Uh, Lastly, we have, process and contract objections. What does as is mean? I want to use my own title company. I don't come across these as often. Um, why is there an inspection period listed? That sort of thing. Does the price change? So we go over that in the uh, purchase agreement walkthrough, but we want to be able to answer these as well. So high level, as you can see, there's a lot of objections to handle, right? And what you should practice as you make calls and as objections come up, if you don't know how to answer them, or you don't think you did a good job, what you should be doing is you should be drilling that out every single day until it becomes second nature. So the goal here is that every one of these questions you have an answer for, right? And if you don't have an answer, practice until you do have an answer and you feel comfortable doing that over and over. So that's pretty much it. The practice I would give is basically walking through and being able to answer each one of these questions. Pick 3 to 5 per day, and then just drill it over and over. Give a response to it five times for each one, and then move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And by the time you're 2 months in, 3 months in, whatever it may be, you'll be able to answer any one of these confidently. So let me know any questions.